This free real estate mastermind is your opportunity to show up with questions, thoughts, anything I can do to help you build your business. I'm committed to helping you do it. Show up Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Central at zoomwithrob.com, and I'll see you there. Welcome to the Impossible to Fail Real Estate Mastermind. Welcome to another episode, Impossible to Fail Real Estate Mastermind. We're digging right in. This is the time when anyone, any agent, anywhere can come on and ask for help. That's what we're here for. So let's always start out with some quick wins. Who's got a win out of the dedicated, loyal handful of dudes that are here to crush it today?
Rob, as you know, I just left a closing, and I also have 2 new buyer agency agreements signed and 3 appointments lined up for this week and weekend.
That's awesome. Matthew Wright just crushing it every week. So Matt, you've really, within about the 4 to 5 months that we started working together, you really have built a very sustainable, the impression I get, because every week when I talk to you or when we text throughout the week, you've always got things going on, and you didn't have that consistent pipeline when we met. And now I'm just getting the impression that you've always got appointments, you've got rep agreements, you got new money coming in, you're doing new income generating activities. Is that accurate? It
is. I went from when I first talked with you, I had nothing, no prospects, nothing in the works at all. I came in with a few deals, and then it went on vacation, and it was just flat lines. Didn't know what to do. And now consistently, I can tell you over November, December, I'm averaging 3 to 4 closings just in those 2 months alone from the work that I did from when I started Earth to Orbit and working this mastermind. And now I'm starting to fill the pipeline for January. So just kind of just keep it going. But I'll tell you the trick is working 7 days a week, like nonstop working. That's the trick.
Yeah.
To get that ball rolling.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Man, there's a lot of great nuggets about what you just said there. Number one is that you're getting closings now from the work you did 4 and 5 months ago. And that's how it goes in our industry, right? Even if y'all meet a client at an open house tomorrow, that closing is going to happen 2, 3, 4, 5 months from now, depending on their timeline, or longer. And so the work you do up now always shows up later. And I also love, Matt, that you just gave the realistic insight, like, hey, I'm working 7 days a week over here. So even with the right blueprint, it's still, the time freedom is something that must be earned and built. You build to time freedom. But the beauty of it is that when you have the right blueprint and apply that blueprint with the massive action, with relentless consistency, and with enough time, you're always going to get there. And that's what you're doing. And you're very transparent about the fact that, like, hey, I'm working 7 days a week, but it's working. It's definitely working, but it's working because you're working it. Great job. Matt Solis, you had a huge win last week. Why don't you share it with us?
Yeah, sure. So I had my first closing on Friday, and thank you. It was with a house hacker that I met at a Bigger Pockets meetup. That's where I've been meeting a lot of my clients, actually, is going to these meetups and just kind of talking about like what I've done. And then I naturally attract people that want to do what I want to do. And not only did I have that first closing, but I asked them for that referral at the closing table, and they said, oh, we actually know someone that wants to house hack too, and they actually want a house hack right next to us. And so we set an appointment with them, and I just signed up another buyer rep yesterday with them. So I've got 6 active buyers right now and 1 listing agreement. So it's going well.
And you've been licensed for, it hasn't been 3 months yet, I don't think, or maybe about that.
I think it's late August was when I got licensed. So I pretty much count like September 1st is like when I started.
Okay. So less than 3.5 months.
Right.
Less than 3, because we're first week in December now. And you've got all those agreements. You just had your first closing. You implemented the technique that I teach for asking for the referral at the closing table at a very precise time. And at your first closing, you asked and you got one.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Awesome. Oh, I love when it all comes together. Great job. Larry, one of our regulars. Give me a win, Larry.
Actually, I'm stuck in the mud.
Okay.
I've been so overwhelmed with all of the information that I've been getting that it's kind of caused me to bog down. So there will be one in the near future, but not today.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, Larry, I'm glad you brought that up. After I hear from Kenneth, we're going to circle back and talk about how we can get you to analyze what it is that maybe has you feeling that way and how you can start taking some action, because you work way too hard to be stuck in analysis paralysis, my friend, way too hard. But I'm glad you brought that up, because transparently, that does happen sometimes. And so we'll talk about that today in a moment. So I'm glad you're here, Larry, because this is going to help get you out of it. All right, Kenneth, what you got, bro?
I got a referral from an agent I've been hosting houses for. That might be turning into a seller with a buyer contingency. So I'm working that right now.
Congratulations, man. So Kenneth, recently, I mean, I think it's maybe been 3 to 4 weeks since you officially became an Earth to Orbit member after coming to the mastermind a little bit. And already you're generating showings. You've got referrals. You're doing more open houses. Every time I see you now, you're in the car doing some real estate thing. So congratulations, man. That's awesome. Looks like we got someone else coming in here. Okay. So, excuse me. I'll share a quick win that I had, a couple wins. One of them is, hello there, Divya. Thanks for coming on. Turn that video on if you're able to, so we can see you. So I had, we have a closing for my parents tomorrow, which is super exciting. They've been looking for a house near us for years. And finally, market conditions are right. Got them a beautiful house, just literally a couple minutes up the road. We got the clear to close. We're closing tomorrow. That's really, really exciting. I want to say about 30 minutes before this mastermind, I got a great referral. And of course, the headline I like to use for my referral education is your phone won't ring by itself unless it's a referral. That's exactly what happened. I was sitting here prepping. My baby was napping, and I just had, I mean, it was literally just working on a couple back end things. I wasn't even on my schedule this morning to be doing follow up, as I had some back end things to be working on. Phone rings by itself. Previous client who I have a great relationship with, because I implement all the techniques that I teach all of my students on maintaining relationships with previous clients. And of course, I do the same thing. And I just said hello. And right away, she's like, hey, Rob, I'm calling you because my dad is going to be moving here closer to the family. He lives in Dallas. His house is on the market. It went under contract in like a day, quicker than anticipated. And I've always been telling him since he wanted to move here that I have, the agent to help. And he called me this morning and said, okay, I'm ready to get in touch with your guy now. So of course I asked her, what did I ask her? When she said, I'm going to send you his info, what I asked her?
Set up a 3-way text.
Yep, exactly right. And she did. So we're going to have a call later today. And I mean, this dude's ready to go. So I anticipate getting a pending contract for him within the next week or two. And we're going to be ready to go. And that's from a deal I did about 2 years ago, and have just maintained that relationship, just maintaining the relationship via all the methods I teach you. And this is just another great example of how it all comes together with time and consistency. Love it. Okay. Let's circle back to Larry's point, and that'll be a really good starting topic for today. So Larry has been absolutely fantastic. Larry, I mean, I want to say you're at every mastermind. You were at my referral boot camp. You were one of the original founding members in the Earth to Orbit class of getting the sales course. And one thing that you mentioned, which is true, is Earth to Orbit has an incredible amount of information in it. I mean, it's ridiculous. That's why I give an outline on my recommended way to complete the course. And it can be similar to real estate in saying, there's so much here. Okay. So Larry, let's start with, what is the biggest thing that's holding you back right now in your business? Do you think that if this thing were to change, you'd really see some momentum being generated?
I think I'm not very well organized. I think that if I was to get my business plan all put together, that would give me a lot better view of what I need to do.
Okay. All right. Now, do you have any current clients in your pipeline right now?
I do not.
Okay. So there's two recommendations we can have there, right? One, is we could say, yes, the business plan is definitely important. And of course, in Earth to Orbit, there's an entire business planning module, hours of great education in there. Now, on the other side, I would say, yes, of course, business planning is important. Yet, oftentimes I find agents in this position where they're not quite generating the momentum that they really want or think they should have. It's because that they're not spending the time doing the things they should be doing, the most important things they should be doing. So on that note, who can tell me what is your number one job as an agent?
To prospect or to lead generate.
That's right. That is 100%, 110% right. Correct. To prospect and lead generate. Why is that the most important thing? I mean, the average agent, I believe the figure out there is has something like 20 or 21 job descriptions, right? So why is it, out of all the things, let's roll with Matt again, that an agent could be doing, Matt Solis, why is prospecting and lead generating by far the most important thing?
I mean, that's where all of your business comes from, is you have to have people to work with. I think of it like a car, like lead generation and prospecting. That's like putting the gas down. Right. And business planning and all the other stuff, that's like making sure your mirrors are right or whatever. But at the end of the day, you need to have the gas down, and you can figure all the other stuff out as you go. But if you're not lead generating, that's the fundamental of the business. So you have nothing. That's not happening.
Yeah. Great analogy. I love that. And ultimately, if your goal was to become a Formula One driver and become really good at driving, you can watch Formula One. You can go to YouTube. You can buy courses on it. You can read about it. You can become obsessed with it. But the only thing that's really going to get you developing a skill set is to get behind the wheel. And so, Larry, I'm not disagreeing with you that business planning is important, but it's not the most important thing right now. The most important thing right now is getting clients. That's the most important thing. And when agents are, like I had an agent on my team. I was doing, we were having our one-to-one coaching call a couple weeks ago, and he has been licensed a few months, really generating a lot of momentum now. But it was about 6 weeks into his career, and he didn't really have, the rep agreements and the contracts that we anticipated him to, because agents that, especially that join my team that I'm teaching every day, I mean, they typically get rep agreements and contracts within 4 to 6 weeks. And he just didn't have that going on yet, but he was doing all the right action. He was doing the right things. And I asked him the same question I asked you, Larry. I said, what do you think is the biggest thing holding you back? And he said, well, Rob, it's all the systems that we have on the team, because I'm a systems maniac, and we have all these different softwares that help integrate to really put the business on autopilot and allow my agents to focus on income producing activities only. And he said, I feel like when I really just get used to this software better and have a better understanding of all the things they can do and how it all integrates together, man, once that happens, baby, watch out. And I was like, yeah, I hear what you're saying. I completely disagree with you. I said, first of all, this feeling that you're waiting for is like probably at least a year away, to the point where when you're an agent going through your CRM, your this, your that, your schedule, how everything, your marketing machine, how that all links together, like that's not going to be as second nature as tying your shoes until you've been doing it a really long time. And so many times agents tell me, once X happens, man, then Rob, right? And I'm like, no, it's not true. No, there is no singular event that is going to change your life or your business other than or more than getting clients. That's the most important thing. Get clients. Then and like Matt said, I'm not saying the business plan isn't important, but it's not as important as getting clients. And if you spend the next 2 weeks working on a perfect business plan, that's still 2 weeks that we're not going out and getting clients. And so let's talk about that first, Larry. All right. So who can tell me what part of your day, according to my education and according to just a good, pretty standard time block schedule, Larry, when in the day should you be doing your lead generating? In what time block of the day?
I would say 9 to 12.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Why is that the best time?
That's the best time to reach people.
Yeah, it's a great time to reach people. Good. Why else?
There are other things I need to do before 9 o'clock to get everything going. So I want to do that first.
Okay, cool. And then you do your lead generation. What do you think would happen if you said, I'm going to save lead generation till the afternoon?
Nah, won't work.
It won't work. Why not?
Because you don't have the same kind of momentum you do in the morning.
Yeah, that's true for most people. Additionally, as an agent, you know, when things come up, curveballs come up, it's easy to react to things. They usually happen in the afternoon, right? Emails start flying more in the afternoon, fires, showing requests. If you have active transactions and you get the call that completely derails your day, like those tend to happen more in the afternoon. The morning time is the income producing time. The income producing activities always need to be the first thing you do because that just guarantees you're going to get them done. Just like, as much as I initially hated doing it, because as a bodybuilder, I've been training in the late afternoon for like a decade. And that's what my body was used to. But as I've been just becoming busier and owning multiple businesses now, and two of them being in real estate, like I just realized, last year, like I couldn't do that anymore. I just couldn't do it. Like I'm literally in the gym, texting on my computer between sets. And then sometimes I wouldn't even be able to get to the gym because fire's got to be put out and I'm going to go do what I got to do for my clients. And then the end of the day comes around and I could go to the gym, but I'm just like, I'm freaking done, dude. I'm done today. So now I'm in the gym at 5:30 in the morning because that's the only way to guarantee that really important thing is going to get done. You must guarantee that your number one activity is going to get done. And Larry, what is your number one priority?
Find clients.
That's right. You can't do anything else without clients. Your business plan is meaningless if there's no clients, right? So that's why the lead generation is the first thing we need to do. So Larry, what methods of lead generation do you like to do?
Well, I'm not real good at cold calling, but I do have a few people that I can contact and see who they know.
Okay. So that'll take 15 or 20 minutes once, and then what?
Got to keep asking for referrals.
All right. So if cold calling, now in my opinion, if there's zero pipeline, you do everything, right? You cold call, you do all of it. Now, if for some folks, they're just like, some folks just have a real thing with cold calling. They're just like, dude, I'm not going to do it. Okay. That time that you're not doing that, I mean, the numbers have to be there. So for example, I have, I tell the agents on my team when they come to me at the beginning of their careers, brand new baby agents, they all have the same KPIs, right? They're going to do 1,000 dials a week on the phones. They're going to do 3 1-to-1s a week on with personal 1-to-1s in the community groups or from business networking. They're going to do 6 open houses a month. They're going to have 10 direct conversations per day at least. And those are the metrics that we use. Even if they're like, I hate cold calling. I'm like, well, you probably hate it because you're not good at it. You enjoy things you're better at, but still, I'm not telling you got to cold call forever. I cold call until I didn't have to anymore. I door knocked until I didn't have to anymore. I hosted open houses until I didn't have to anymore. And eventually it's about finding the lead generation methods that you really like and that you're good at. So I love teaching relationship-based prospecting. That's my thing. I teach agents how to get business for free, right? You'll notice that as big as Earth to Orbit is, the one thing that's not in there is paid methods of lead generation. Because I don't know anything about paying for leads. I've never done it before and I'm not going to. I pay for appointments for my team. I have a great service, Whitley, that schedules appointments and does online lead generation for us. And all those go right to my team. I've never paid for a lead in my life, and I never will. I still teach my team how to generate their own business because you can't take that away. That's a skill set that can never be taken away. That's a skill you got to learn, right? I teach them how to fish and I give them the fish. So Larry, I would say if you're like, hey man, I'm not going to do cold calling, then get out there and network. Business networking groups, community groups. I would find, Larry, at least one event to go to every week. Okay. It could be like Matt goes to Bigger Pockets meetups. For you, it could be a community meetup. If you go to church or have another community group, Larry, are you part of any community groups, community-based groups, church, fitness, anything like that?
Yeah, church, of course, but
Okay.
I own a Great Dane, and there's a pretty good group of Great Dane owners that post a lot.
Wow. Okay. So you have two community groups that you're part of. One is your church and the other is Great Dane owners. Beautiful. You have a whole bunch of one-on-ones right there.
Yeah.
So here's what I would recommend, Larry, for you as you write these down. Okay. You don't have to cold call. If you're like, dude, I don't want to cold call, don't worry about it. But then you do need to go hard into other methods of prospecting. So I would say, Larry, you want to aim for at least three one-to-ones per week. I mean, if I had an agent on my team, I said, I'm not, like I have an agent on my team now actually who doesn't cold call because he just really is succeeding with other methods of prospecting, primarily one-to-ones, but he does at least 6 one-to-ones per week, sometimes 8. And he still does 2 open houses every weekend. So he does 8 open houses a month and 6 to 8 one-to-ones a week. And he's doing really well. So I would say at least 3 one-to-ones per week. I'd really want to see that at 5, just 1 a day. Or you could, have 2 days where you do 2 to 3 one-to-ones a day. You don't have to do the same thing every day. If you're like Thursday might be your one-to-one day and you do or Thursday and Friday, you do breakfast, lunch, and dinner and 2 coffees. And, you could figure out how you want to do it, but you came to my referral business boot camp. So you know how to ask people to get together. So you should be at church. Every time you go to church, you should be asking people, new people you haven't met yet, to connect, meet for a coffee, meet for breakfast or lunch or after church or something, and just get to know each other. And the same thing for your Great Dane owners group. You can even just post and say, hey, who wants to get together in person at the park? Or who wants to meet up for a beer or something? Or find a place that is dog friendly where you can sit out in the open seating area outside and everyone can bring their dogs. There's no reason you can't start the Great Dane in-person monthly meetup, right? But if cold calling isn't the thing, then go for community groups and build relationships. So Larry, what I want you to do is by the end of, so what's today? Tuesday. So do you have people's phone numbers from your church?
Yeah.
Cool. So Larry, after we get off this call, I want you to write down 5 people that you can call from church to set up a one-to-one. And then I want you to have at least 2 one-to-ones this week. You have later today, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So you can even do one every other day. You don't have to swamp your schedule yet. And then each week after that, you should be having 3 one-to-ones. So Larry, I'm going to taking my fancy brass pen here, and I'm going to write down Larry's one-to-ones. And so what I have a little notepad. I keep track of our mastermind sessions. And what I'm going to ask you, Larry, next week is I'm going to ask you, how many one-to-ones did you have last week, Larry? Not what do you have this week or what are you going to try to do? I'm going to ask you, how many one-to-ones, Larry, did you have last week? Meaning that we are expecting that you're going to have a couple of one-to-ones that you can report back to us. Okay. And I guarantee you, if you focus on building relationships with people, having direct conversations, asking them at the end of the conversation, at the end of the one-to-one, who do you know looking to buy a home or sell a house or invest in real estate, you will start getting clients. I guarantee it, that it would be impossible for that not to happen if you're doing it consistently. But right now you're saying I'm stuck in feeling overwhelmed. So what I did is I gave you very clear directions on number one, exactly what you should do and what you shouldn't do. You shouldn't be focusing on business planning right now. Again, it's not unimportant, but what you should be focusing on is getting clients. Okay. One-to-ones. All right. And so for anyone out there watching this one, if you're like Larry, which is, we've all been there. We've all been there. I'm still there sometimes, not with being an agent, but if I'm taking on some new endeavor in my business that is like, so for example, when I started creating Earth to Orbit, almost 2 years ago, I started creating Earth to Orbit. And I finally just like wrote everything out, everything that was going to be included in it. I initially estimated it was going to be like 50 videos and cost about 50 grand. And it wound up being about 140 something videos and cost me over $130,000. And once everything was all put together, before I even recorded the first video, I was just like, oh my God, how am I even going to, it's like Noah building the freaking ark right now. Like, how is this even possible? And then I actually made a pretty funny analogy to myself. I was like, well, I guess it's like building a house, right? Like if I was a home builder, right, building a house, this house might take like a year, right? And it's just part of it. And I knew that the only way to do it is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? And so as much as I said, there are 15 modules, thousands of slides, I got to build hundreds of videos. I have to write all these scripts and like, oh my God, like this is going to take years. This is going to be crazy. But I said to myself, well, I got to stop staring at the freaking screen and do something. I just got to start. And so I said, well, I'm going to start with module 1. And I just started writing the script. And every day I just took action. I said, what's the most important thing here? So I could have said, well, the most important thing is making connections for when I'm going to sell it. The most important thing could be, what platform, and those are important, but not as important as just getting it done, just writing the content and getting it done. So that's what I did every day. I just spent time doing that until it was done. Right. And so if you're out there wondering, you're stuck in analysis paralysis, which is super common, ask yourself, what is the one thing that I should be doing or could be doing that would actually push the needle in the direction I need it to go? If your pain point is, I don't know what to do, but you don't have clients and you don't have money, well, that's priority number 1. Getting money, getting clients. If whatever the thing is that you should be doing, just take action on something, even if you're going to suck, even if it's going to be imperfect, even if you have no freaking idea what you're doing because it's the first time literally that you're going to do it. Fine, just do something. Action is always the answer for analysis paralysis. If you said, Rob, I got analysis paralysis, I'm going to take my prescription pad, I'm going to take my pen, and it's going to say action. Take action. That's exactly what the prescription is going to be every single time. I'll tell you what the opposite of the answer is: doing nothing. That is for sure going to leave you stuck in the mud, right? And remember, imperfect action is better than no action at all. Okay. All right. Good. Anyone else have a question they brought to the table today? Okay, cool. Well, we had some really great content talking about people's wins and how to get unstuck from analysis paralysis, which is, again, very, very common. So, Larry, I'm going to ask you a question. What is the cure for analysis paralysis?
Immediate action.
That's right, Larry. So as soon as this call hangs up, what are you going to do?
Make some phone calls.
Yep. And who are you going to call?
I'm going to call at least 5 people from my church.
And you're going to do what?
make one-on-ones to visit with them and get better acquainted.
Exactly right. Very good. And a quick one-to-one pro tip for y'all before we leave, for anyone watching this now or later. When you're with someone, you're on the phone or you're with them, especially if you're at your community group, you're at your church, you're in the gym, you're at the Great Dane Owners meetup, and you tell someone, I'd love to get together for a coffee and just kind of hang out. They say, yeah, great. Sounds good. Schedule it at that moment. Okay. Don't say, okay, cool, call you later. No, they won't, because life happens as soon as you walk out the door. Just like if you're at the open house and you say, I'd love to get together. They go, great, yeah, I'll call you. And you go, oh my God, they're going to call me. They're not going to call you. You schedule the appointment right there on the spot. So Larry and everyone else, when you're scheduling your one-on-ones, just schedule it. Use literally the same language as setting an appointment. Hey, man, I'd love to get together for lunch, get to know you a little better. Yeah, that sounds great, Rob. Okay, cool. Hey, do weekdays or weekends work best for you for lunch? And they're probably going to go, oh, like they're going to be surprised that you're actually going to schedule it on the spot, because most people don't. And they'll say, yeah, probably a weekend. Okay, cool. Like late morning or early afternoon? I guess early afternoon. Okay, do you want to do Saturday at 1 or Saturday at 2? Let's Saturday at 1. Okay, cool. Here's the event. Boom, boom. What email you want me to send that calendar event to so you don't forget? And then that's how I do it. Easy. But just schedule the one-to-one at that time, because most likely it's not going to happen if you do like yeah, we'll connect later on it. You probably won't. Okay.
Hey, Rob, on that note, I actually do have a question. A couple times at an open house, I've tried to schedule something, and they're usually they don't want to schedule it right then. They're like, oh, well, let me check. It's the objection, right? Let me check either with my schedule or something. And I always try why don't we pencil it in for now?
Mm-hmm.
And then if we need to reschedule, we can. And a lot of times they still won't schedule it. So I guess I don't know what my question is. I mean, I know you have an objection handler for that stuff,
Yep.
but it's just something I've been dealing with lately. Is a lot of people, I can't get them to commit to something at the open house. And I know like you said, as soon as they walk away, the likelihood of us meeting goes way down. So
that is true. And that's a good point. So when you're dealing with someone at the open house and you're trying to schedule that appointment. Now, Matt, I'm assuming by the time you get there, well, I know you are, because you're really good at this. You've mastered the scripts. You're using the ABC script. You're summarizing their situation prior to delivering the ABC script. That ABC script is customized so they know you're hearing them, that you're listening to them, and that you understand their situation. Then you give them the ABC script and they still don't want to do it. And you handle the objection. Oh, let me talk to my spouse. And you give them the spouse objection handler. Or they say, oh, let me really look at my schedule. And you give them the schedule objection handler, right? Which work really well when you implement them properly. If they're still not willing to schedule a time at that moment, most likely it means that they're simply not as motivated as they're making it seem. Because once it actually comes time to put some commitment behind the motivation, that's where the issue happens. And if you think about it, we're all guilty of it. As an example, right? I remember one time when my wife and I were talking about, this was maybe like last year sometime. She, I have the business car. She has the mom mobile. I got the Tesla with my car fancy wrap, and she has the mom CRV with the dog hair and the baby seat and all that good stuff. And we were saying, hey, maybe we need a little bigger vehicle. And I kind of just got on that kick for a little bit, and I was like, yeah. So doing my thing, checking out vehicles, and I just check out a local dealership. And I just called to check out some inventory to see if they had a specific model of a vehicle that I wanted or was really considering. And they didn't have it. He was like, oh, but I got a killer deal on a 2021 model right here. I was like, yeah, if I buy it, I'd really want the 2022. And but keep me updated. And so this dude's calling me like all the time, like following up like a boss. And what I quickly realized is I'm not as into buying a new car right now as I thought I was. When I just started looking at the finances, like, yeah, we could afford it, but that $900 a month car payment, which is, what about that $80,000 or $90,000 car would be? At this point, I'd rather put that towards developing Earth to Orbit or ad spend for my team to get more appointments, or something here where the car we have now is fine. So like, would it be nice? Yeah. Could I do it? Yeah, but it's not the best use of those funds at this time. But when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh yeah, I really want to do this. That happens with open houses all the time. All the time. People just love going into houses, and they'll drive by and they'll check it out, or they'll go, oh honey, like look at this one. And they kind of get it in their heads, and then they go, and then they're like, oh yeah, we'll totally meet. Great. You want to set up a time to meet? Oh. And then it starts becoming real fast. And so one really beautiful thing about asking for the appointment on the spot in a really, high performing, high execution, high conversion rate kind of way is you are kind of asking people to put their money where their mouth is in terms of their level of motivation. Oh, we're so excited to buy a house. We want to be in there right away. Cool. You want to set an appointment to meet? Yeah, we'll get back to you. Right. So Matt, I would just say, knowing the level that you're converting right now, because you've really been very intentional about practicing the scripts and conversion. If you give them the script, you give them the objection handler, they're not into it. It doesn't mean they're not going to work with you. It just means they're probably not as excited to do something as soon as they made you, as soon as they kind of gave the impression. So in which case, that's when you want to make sure the most important thing you can do is just get their info.
Yeah.
Just get the phone number and the email, put them on your newsletters, put them on your nurture, follow up with them, stay on their radar until that time comes. But sometimes as agents, we feel like there must surely be some combination of words and vocal inflection that I could use to get these people to say yes. And the truth is that's not the case. You have quite a lot of control over the yeses that you get. But at some point, if they're not motivated, you can't create motivation in someone. Remember, motivated people are discovered, not necessarily created. Sometimes you can create it if they have a misconception. If they say, well, I don't have 20% down, otherwise I would truly buy a house right now. And you go, you don't need 20% down. You could do as little as 3%. And they go, oh, then in that case, let's go. That's a rare circumstance, though. The reality is you're going to find the motivated people. So if they're not as motivated as you thought, there's not really anything you can do about that other than just nurture them.
Gotcha. And as far as nurturing them, and at Matt, right, I'd like to hear your answer too, if you have any input on this, but I've been kind of experimenting with ways to follow up with people. So most of the time when I follow up with people, even people that I closed really well with the ABC script in person, and they seemed open to the idea of meeting me. I couldn't lock down that appointment though, and I'll follow up with them and they won't say anything. And so what I try and do is I kind of alternate my ways of following up. Maybe I'll call one time, and then maybe the next time I'll text, and then maybe I'll leave a voice memo, and then the next time I'll send them a house that would fit in their criteria that I learned about them, to say like, hey, I stumbled upon this house, and here, what do you think of this one? And then of course they don't say anything, but I just wanted to see what strategies have you guys found that works well for following up without just being like, hey, it's Matt again. Is there anything I can do for you? Like it just feels like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like I'm doing the right thing all the time with the follow up.
I would say, to circle back to your first question, I run into that a lot, especially in open houses where they're not ready to commit and make the appointment. I always say, well, I'll tell you, we do the objection handlers, we try to get them to schedule it, but essentially what we're doing is we're filtering out those that are not really seriously ready to buy today. But that doesn't mean that they're not gonna buy. I had one 2 months ago that would not give me the time of day to make an appointment. Just put them on a drip campaign, followed up with phone calls, text messages, emails, accommodation. And now I'm getting ready to talk to her about listing her house and finding a new house for her to buy. So it just means, again, like to touch what Rob said, they're just not ready, or they're not serious. As far as the drip, as far as like following up, I keep people on a drip campaign through my CRM. I pre-wrote out a long-term drip campaign that'll last a year and then totally reset all the way back to the beginning.
Okay, so that's something I'm not doing. I'm doing it manually right now. I still don't do any drip campaign.
Too much time.
It's
Now,
a lot of time.
I do try to call. Now, if I know that they're not serious, this is kind of where I learned this in a combination of masterminds and Earth to Orbit, but also to experience with other agents. I will be very aggressive in the very first 2 weeks. And then after that first 2 weeks, I kind of dial it down. But if I know they're not interested, if I know that they're not serious, if they're not, like Rob said, putting their money where their mouth is, then I put them on like a tiered. I'll call them maybe every 2 to 3 weeks, but I am still sending them emails and text messages through the drip campaign. Now that consists of things like house tips, not necessarily just, hey, this is me, hope I can help you, how you doing? You know, I do things like house tips. I'll do like a open house list, like, and I'll say, there's a bunch of open houses happening this weekend. Can I send you a list? That way I can get a response. You know, I don't just send them the list. So I do things to encourage a response from the lead.
Where did you develop that drip campaign? Is that something that was a template and your CRM, or did you make it yourself, or how did you?
No, I wrote all my own.
Okay. Yeah, because that's one thing. The reason I haven't used a drip campaign yet is because it feels so wrong to me still. Because like it like when I was with KV Core, I tried using the Open House app, and it automatically set them up on a drip campaign. I didn't even realize it, and I was blasting these people that I had built a good relationship with, and then I felt like I instantly lost their trust because they could tell that they were on some stupid like thing where they were like getting robot messages. Like I just feel like I want to find a drip campaign that feels more like me. So I guess I need to just make one.
Yeah, right. You have to take the time to do it.
Yeah, you definitely need to. And Matt, right, that was great insight. So thank you for that. Yeah, Matt. So Lisa, you got to create your own.
Okay.
We did the same thing. So like my team, and you're part of my company. So you know this, we use Follow Up Boss, right? Now I would recommend that you either, you know, within Follow Up Boss, for anyone that's using Follow Up Boss out there, I mean, for sure, it's the best CRM out there, I think, for real estate. There are built-in long-term nurture campaigns. So what you can do is you can go in there and use that as a template and start customizing. What we did is we have automations as well, but we just, even if I just go in there and change 2 words, just so I know this is the way I would say it. This sounds more like me. So even if they're getting this email from me, it gives more the impression that this is being sent personally from me. A lot of drip campaigns now I know with Follow Up Boss, a lot of that is data driven. Like these are the campaigns that have been proven to work. But so many agents you're not alone, Matt Solis, in saying like, yeah, it just feels too impersonal. But the reality is you're not going to have the bandwidth to manually, and you shouldn't be manually emailing all these people. It's an inefficient way to do it. But if it's a sticking point for you that you're like, this feels too impersonal, just create your own. And you don't, you know, you could sit down and block out time in your day and take 4 hours on a Saturday and say, this is going to be when I build out my long-term buyer nurture campaign. By the end of this day, this is going to be done. This is going to be a high income producing activity for the long run. And I'm going to do that. Or you could say each day I'm going to write 1 email. Each day I'm going to add 1 thing to this nurture campaign. And, you know, by the end of the month, it'll be done. So if it were me, I'd probably just plan a 3 to 4 hour block and just knock it out.
Yeah, that's good. And I like what Matt said. He was saying that for the first 2 weeks, maybe it sounded like, Matt, you were like manually doing it. You're following up them pretty aggressively. And then after 2 weeks, you go ahead and put them on that long-term thing.
Yeah.
I think the mistake well, go ahead.
You're kind of right. I put them on the drip immediately.
Okay.
And as soon as they go in, they're already on the campaign. But the first 2 weeks of that campaign are aggressive. I fluctuate between emails and text messages.
Okay.
But then I also do phone calls. So if I've reached somebody and they're ready to move forward, then I will take them off the campaign. And if they're not ready, then I put them on like a just browsing drip. I have a separate drip campaign for depending on what position they're in. But I have a very aggressive campaign until they answer me. and then we have to switch up. So you're gonna spend some time creating some campaigns, but I did what Rob said. I took what was there. I saw kind of the layout, how they built it out, how they worded certain things, and then I changed a lot. I changed some of them. I changed a couple words. Some of them I changed the entire email and text message altogether to make it not sound like me, but not seem. I'm in their face, but I'm not like, hey, call me right now. I want to sell you a house, right? But I'm in their face.
Yeah, and
But
with the remember that the first 2 weeks should be at 7 to 10 touches for sure.
Right.
And so what we do in Follow Up Boss is it's a combination. So just like Matt's saying, they go on the drip campaign right away. Now that's probably going to be an email every 2 to 3 days. So they're not getting emailed every day, but
Yeah.
let's say day 1 is going to be a phone call. Day 2 is going to be a text message. Those are done manually, and those tasks pop up on your smart list. So when you add someone to the open house nurture campaign, these things happen automatically. So day 1 is going to be a task, call this person. Day 2 is going to be a task, call this person. Day 3 is going to be an automation that's just going to send them the email. And then so you only do the things that pop up on your Follow Up Boss smart list every day.
Mhm.
Day 4, going to be another phone call. Day 5 is going to be an email. Day 6 is going to be a text. So it's a combination of auto and manual. As time passes, after you pass that general 2-week mark, it's going to be more automated, and you still probably want to call them based on their time frame that they tell you. If they say, hey, I'm 6 months out, calling them every 2 weeks should be okay. If they say I'm 3 months out, call them once or twice a week. If they say I just renewed my lease and I'm not going to buy for a year, well, you don't need to be calling them that many times in the first 2 weeks anyway. But Matt, I think investing some time into building out your follow-ups custom so you feel good about them is going to be really important. But the more automated you can make your life, the better. There's no doubt.
For sure. Kind of going back to what Larry said, like, I mean, I'm part-time right now, so I focus all my time on like finding people, finding leads and everything. So I haven't really invested time into like certain aspects of the business that are really important. But like, to me, it's like, do I prospect or do I build a drip campaign? It's like,
right. And that's a great point. And that is a dilemma because but I would say, especially because you're part-time, even more important that you automate as much of your business as possible.
Yeah.
So it's a one-time, the beautiful thing about building systems for anyone watching and listening to this, and I'm a systems nut. I mean, that was literally the reason I decided to build Earth to Orbit, was I was tired of manually training all of my agents, my coaching students, my agents on my team. I'm like, every time I got to stop what I'm doing and manually teach all this stuff every time. And I'm like, why don't I just create really awesome videos, like the largest database of education out there, so that anytime an agent has a question and says, Rob, how do I do new construction? How do I do this? I'm preparing for my first appointment. Go to Earth to Orbit, watch this, and then let me know what questions you have. It was awesome, right? And now, because I took that time to do it, I don't have to do any more of that manual stuff. So yeah, Matt, there will likely be a time that you could be in an open house and instead you're going to sit down and build your nurture campaign. And that's okay, as long as you use that time efficiently. So if you're skipping an open house in order to build out your nurture campaign, that thing better be freaking done by the time that day is over, so that you can set it, forget it, and now it's going to make you more money.
I would say also, to add to that, Matt, is that you said you spent all your time basically prospecting. At what point are you either not following up with your prospects, or you no longer prospecting because you're following up? You just you're going to end up where you're very overwhelmed on either side. And if you don't automate it, you don't take the time to automate it, then you're going to be
that makes sense.
Making phone calls and emails. You definitely have to automate it.
That's the way to go. And it's not impersonal, just like using scripts isn't impersonal. All right. Okay, gang. Awesome session today. Everybody have a wonderful income producing day. Larry, you schedule those one-to-ones, my friend. And I look forward to seeing y'all next week on the next Impossible to Fail Real Estate Mastermind.